Hi, this video is about Jules, Google's coding agent. In this video, I'm going to show you all the ins and outs of Jules, its features and limitations. I'm going to show you example usage and what I think of how that works. And I read the full documentation and put it to the test. I think you'll find the results interesting. One way to think about this tool is it's a lot like Devin or Bolt or Lovable, except it's free with limited usage, although the limits, even though it's daily task limit of 5, that seems like very low. It's actually higher than you think because of how they define tasks. So let's get into it. The first thing that it will ask you to do is connect to GitHub, which is pretty simple process. It can't actually create a new repo for you. So you need to create a repo or use a repo that you're already using. I definitely don't recommend your first test be just send it after a repo that's looking pretty good, because there are issues with both this coder and all the other coding agents in general. It is kind of slow, but let's go ahead and jump into my test. So what I did was actually, this is just one task. I actually ran this task a couple of days ago. One task, it's actually a long thread of the task. And so if I'm asking it to make more updates, so if I go all the way up to the top, create a main branch for a simple UI for talking to different large language models via API. Now, this isn't a great starting prompt, so I would recommend you give it more specifics as to what you want. You're gonna get a better result because of the way it tends to, all of the models, even if it's using, and it didn't say which model it was using in the background, even if it's using their best Gemini Pro 2.5, which actually I suspect that's not the case. It's going to build things, in my opinion, in a way that it doesn't understand the best, most optimal way for it to build it correctly. So if we actually go into the code, you can see it builds this complex structure, and technically that's how you're supposed to build code. But what I found repeatedly with Cursor and Windsurf and any of the other AI coding models, you actually want to narrow the amount of files down to as small as possible, at least for the first versions, because it just creates a bunch of errors. It has to kind of connect a lot more dots. It's a lot more complex. And as you'll see in a second, that creates, I believe that's the reason why it created these errors. So I could have given it a better prompt. So what it did was it created a plan. I went ahead and approved it. I just, vibe coded it straight through, and you can see some of the actions it took. Again, this is very similar, even look to like something like Devin. And then after the first one, I was like, hey, what do I need to do to run this? And so I was following the instructions. And long story short, it kept giving me errors, and I was in a circular loop repeatedly trying to give it the errors, have it fix the errors, give it the errors, have it fix the errors, and it just couldn't do it. And this is extremely common with the coding agents, again, especially when you use the complex file structure. Now, there's some other things to note here. When we go back to here, you can do configuration, and you can run the initial setup. It'll actually run, like if you need to kind of prep some scripts in there. I'm not sure I needed to do this because it doesn't actually run the test of it on Jules, the Jules virtual machine. It was like you need to download it to your local machine to use it. And that's what I did. And again, that's where I got just repeated errors over and over again. Now, maybe if I started a fresh task, that would be better for it to, it might have a better issue there, but I think it's actually just more to do with the limitations of the models right now and when you put them on a loop. Another thing is there's no scroll bar, and I can't, like, if I hit end, well, actually that wasn't working before, just a minute ago. Okay, so we got home, and then, okay, just a little bit ago, I hit end and it took me to the top. So that was kind of weird, but there's no scroll bar, and so scrolling up and down is a little bit awkward here. Again, you can see my daily task limit, even though I was asking a question, did not go up for today. Let's go ahead and look at the docs. They're pretty short, so I do recommend you read them, but I'll kind of go through it super quickly. You don't really need an environment setup. This is where they talk about the coding language that it supports. Rust fans will be happy. And kind of you get your setup scripts, running tasks. Here we go. It gives some prompt engineering tips. Fix everything, optimize code, and make this better. So yeah, that's obviously going to give you different effects the more specific you are with your prompts. With any of the coding agents or the coding models, the better you're gonna get on there. It talks about their planning, reviewing the code, managing the tasks and repos. You can pause the task, although I found that to be kind of awkward. It is pretty slow. Like it showed the first initial run took about 20 something minutes, while if I'm doing like Cursor or Windsurf, it's much faster than that typically. I think that they're just not putting a lot of resources on it, but it still is about as good as the other coding agents in my opinion. You can do this code cast, you get 5 of those per day. And if we go, I guess it'll say that in the usage limits, 3 concurrent tasks, 5 total tasks per day. And you can actually request higher limits and maybe they'll charge you for it. But in general, Google has, put stuff out and they are doing stuff at the lowest cost of anybody else. They're losing money. They're just trying to keep their market share, it seems like. Okay, let's go back here and check out a few you can go to the settings, enable notifications. I don't have that turned on. Allow training of context from public repositories. It does not train its models from your private repositories. So that's good to know. I don't have any public ones. And then you click here and it takes you back to making a new task. I kind of want to give it fix the code, but I think there's just too many major issues with structurally how it is. And so I would start over from the beginning for this specific test. I think that pretty much covers it. It's actually pretty simple. So create a test repo and give it a try. Give it a better initial prompt with really specific instructions on how you want it. Highly recommend that you make the amount of files and the structure of the file system as simple and small as possible. I think that's going to increase the chances of success and make it so that when there are errors, it confidently says, oh, I know the error, let me fix it. Okay, I fixed it. And then you get another error or the same error and it goes, oh, I know the error. So, but that's common to all of the AI models. They paint themselves into corners. They often, don't write the best code, and they confidently think that they're always solving the issue. Let me know what you think. Have you had a chance to test it and had any good results or bad results or anything that you want to report on? I'd be happy to hear that. It's interesting, and I like that they're going in this direction. I suspect that it won't be quite as clean or consistently updated as some of the other tools, but to me it does just the same or very similar to what you'd expect Devin to do, but for free and potentially better, because it's possible that if they're using their latest models, which maybe they are, maybe they aren't, then you might actually get better results from Jules than from some of the other paid tools. Google is really kicking butt on AI. So let me know what you think and hope you have a great day. Like and subscribe. Bye.